Can you imagine a city where golden sunsets hide people scavenging for dinner out of trash bins, all beneath billboards bragging about success? This is not a story from far away. It is Los Angeles, the so-called City of Angels, now slipping into shadows. Every dawn, hunched figures creep under tangled freeway ramps, tearing open plastic sacks in search of stale bread or half-eaten burgers. Each crumpled wrapper feels like a lottery ticket that might keep their stomachs quiet until night falls. Tourist brochures still paint palm trees and red carpets, yet a different postcard is developing on cracked asphalt. Welcome to Los Angeles, where the American dream flickers like a neon sign with broken letters. For decades, newcomers poured in chasing hope, ready to build futures from scratch. Now thousands watch those futures sink into storm drains clogged with despair. In streets named for movie stars, real people measure a day's worth by empty cans they can trade for coins. Mansions rise behind high hedges while makeshift tents flap in their shadows like silent alarms. The county counts more than 75,000 people without a secure roof tonight. That is bigger than the entire city of Santa Monica. And the number keeps climbing almost 10% in only a few years. What stings even more are the names on that list. Some held steady jobs just months ago, paid rent on time, and walked kids to class. One missed paycheck, a sudden illness, or a giant hospital bill can pull the floor away without warning. Longtime residents who once guided neighborhood fairs now sleep in parking lots, trying to look invisible. A woman whispers, "I used to be a project manager at Kinney Construction. My husband lost his job. And then it was my turn. I had to send my daughter to a friend. And we ended up on the street. I had to send my daughter to a friend. And we hit the road." Listen at gas stations or bus depots, and you will hear voices describing how they dodge patrol cars that want papers they no longer have. Fiction has faded. Reality stands raw and painful. A single glance at a booming stock chart does not comfort those free-falling at the bottom rung. Since 1980, reports show the richest slice of society grabbing most new income, while wages for workers barely budge. The public asks why unhoused people do not simply push harder, yet effort bends under a system with no empty seats. Lines snake for hours outside shelters with only 6 beds, while officials prepare to clear 1,000 lives from tents along the Santa Ana River. Los Angeles is not shattering because of any quake. It fractures each time a child chews leftovers pulled from a dumpster, or an elder is forced out of a park after midnight. Sadness deepens when daily tragedy becomes normal. People grow used to seeing someone who once paid taxes now curled beside a sidewalk drain, as though this is acceptable. If the shining heart of California lets humans live off garbage, where can anyone still dare to dream? When society shrugs at workers who once built this city lying under bridges, what hope remains for the promise called the American dream? Look at the smallest lives, the wilted seedlings pushing through concrete. In Los Angeles County, experts estimate more than 1 in every 100 residents without shelter is a child. Picture a teen brushing teeth with bottled water beside a bus bench while traffic roars past. Their bedroom could be a rusty sedan in an empty lot, a corner by the freeway, or a bunk in a shelter where doors never truly lock. 17-year-old Michelle Franza shares one cramped space with her mother and 4 siblings in the heart of Skid Row. They ran from danger, yet found no stable landing. And she asks herself, how did this happen to us? 10 people cram into a room, so tight the air feels like prison walls. Ordinary teenage moments like cooking noodles at midnight, playing music alone, or studying in peace become distant fantasies. Every evening, Michelle and other youngsters form a tight circle and walk to the bus hub, not to ride anywhere, but to stay safer under lights. Just blocks away, hundreds with criminal records drift through the dark. The city once symbolized opportunity, yet its streets now teach children survival before they ever learn ambition. They have become unpaid passengers left standing on the train named Future. A nation that lets its next generation sleep outside dims its own horizon. If today's seedlings lack soil and sunshine, tomorrow's forest cannot grow. There is a place on every map that tourists skip, yet every local knows. Skid Row is a scar that refuses to heal. Dreams ripped to pieces flutter on clotheslines between tents made of blue tarps, plywood, and patch blankets. By 2025, More than 3,800 men, women, and children lived outdoors in that neighborhood alone. Many once clocked in at regular jobs, but one shock, a layoff, a divorce, a crash, or an illness sent them spiraling. When someone falls off the social ladder here, there is no rope. They tumble straight into a dark zone where each sunrise is another test of will. Car horns blast, street lights glare, yet names disappear. No mailboxes, no house numbers, only a restless sea of colors marking fragile shelters. They do not hide in distant forests or deserts. They exist in plain sight, so vivid it hurts. Yet the story widens. Walk a few blocks west, and you'll find brand new lofts listed for millions, even while families sleep beneath the billboards that advertise them. Rent in some districts has doubled in 10 years, making a basic studio feel like a luxury few can reach. But the next twist is even harder to watch. Health costs march upward at the same time. One broken arm or one unexpected infection can swallow a worker's savings quicker than any thief. Hospitals discharge patients with nowhere to recover, handing them prescriptions they cannot afford to fill. Mental health adds another layer of heartbreak. Social workers warn that untreated trauma spreads through camps like wildfire. Night after night, you can hear people crying out from nightmares, trapped in memories that never end. And yet, community spirit still sparks in the rubble. Volunteer groups hand out sandwiches under the 6th Street Bridge, proving that compassion survives even when policy stalls. Each time a passerby stops to share food, it lights a small torch of dignity. But what happens next pushes the tension higher. City leaders announce routine sweeps, moving entire camps with little notice. Bulldozers rumble in at dawn, scooping up tents, blankets, and often the only keepsakes people have left. The streets look tidy for a day, yet the loss clings to those displaced. Parents scramble to keep children in class during these crackdowns. Some schools quietly arrange bus routes that pick kids up from parking lots, so their classmates never learn they are homeless. Teachers keep snacks in drawers, knowing many arrive without breakfast. Imagine doing math homework while wondering where you will sleep each night. That strain weighs on young minds, yet they still dream of better. One boy told reporters he wants to be a paramedic, so he can help others on the sidewalk the way volunteers once helped him. Law enforcement faces its own dilemma. Officers are called to protect property rights, yet many admit privately that ticketing a person who owns nothing feels pointless. Each citation stacks fines the unhoused can never pay, trapping them in a loop of warrants and fear. Faith groups convert parking lots into overnight refuges, pitching temporary canvas domes where families can rest without harassment. But permits expire and donations stretch thin. The relief is real, yet constantly threatened by new regulations. As sunset spreads orange light over downtown towers, a fresh crowd arrives dragging suitcases, evidence that the crisis is still growing. They scan curbs, searching for any open patch of pavement to claim before darkness swallows the city. An elderly veteran clutches a framed photo from his service days. He says the picture reminds him that he once belonged to something bigger. Tonight, that photo, stuffed into a torn backpack, could vanish if thieves strike again. Most heartbreaking of all, society's attention drifts quickly. A viral video may spark outrage, but by the next week a new headline steals focus. Meanwhile, the tents remain, and the people inside them continue the same grim routine. If no bold solution rises soon, Los Angeles risks cementing a two-tier city forever. One world of penthouse terraces and rooftop pools shining in the moonlight, the other a grid of blue tarps rustling in freeway wind. Though hope flickers, it refuses to die. Every shared meal, every mobile clinic, every after-school program proves that a different ending is still possible. The question pounds louder each night. Will the city answer before the silence of neglect becomes permanent? The city once vowed to end homelessness, throwing billions at new housing. Yet every fresh budget seems to spawn more tents, not fewer. In Skid Row, night pulls a strange soundtrack across the streets. The hiss of zippers, quick scuffles over park benches, and roaring trucks that haul away shattered hopes. Why must anyone live this way in one of America's wealthiest places? Residents hear constant pledges. Skid Row will be cleaned up. More public housing is coming. Trust us. But covering an open wound with a thin cloth never heals it. Skid Row is not grime to be scrubbed out. It is a siren that warns a society choking the very class that once upheld it. If tax-paying builders of Los Angeles now dig through trash for dinner, who can feel safe tomorrow? Walk out of a $300 concert downtown, turn into a narrow alley, and a woman is already elbow-deep in garbage hunting cans to fund one more night alive. Two worlds sit steps apart, one blinding with marquee lights, the other drowning in deep shadow. This city was once the launch pad for new beginnings. Yet for thousands it has become the end of the line, stealing not only shelter, but the sense of belonging to America. On the same block, an art opening dazzles while tents face eviction notices. Boundaries exist only in the eyes of passers-by. A mother guiding her child to school slips past another child curled beneath a post office awning. A bank employee waits for a ride beside a veteran dozing by his cart. Los Angeles is built like a film with two layers. The first is the glitter, parties, red carpets, rooftop dinners. The second is the raw real, silent, cold, and aching. Day by day the gap widens, then fades from sight, because the upper layer learns to stop looking down. City leaders have spent billions on aid, yet tent lines lengthen each month. They declared a state of emergency, but many longtime residents no longer feel urgent outrage, only numb acceptance. When abnormality lingers too long, it morphs into routine. Los Angeles did not crumble overnight. It cracked inch by inch whenever workers who once paid taxes and raised children were shoved outside the margins. If we feel nothing while an elderly woman rifles a trash bin beside a five-star hotel, what has died first? Public conscience or faith in America? A quiet paradox now grips the city. People once solidly middle-class sleep in cars, tents, or cramped rooms with strangers. They are not lazy or idle. They simply cannot outrun surging costs. A single bedroom averages more than $3,500 each month, while many blue-collar salaries hover near the same figure. Rent alone swallows every paycheck. Food, fuel, medicine, and children's needs loom beyond reach. A retired school employee confided, "I still receive a pension, but the rent has increased so much that I can't keep my apartment. I still receive a pension, but the rent is increasing so rapidly that I can't keep my apartment." Those words come from someone who devoted decades to guiding young minds, not from anyone who quit on life. Los Angeles now hosts not only the unhoused, but a fragile border class, people barely sheltered, always a single mishap away from the street. A sudden illness, small accident, or a rent hike of a few hundred can tip them over the edge. The saddest shift is that the American dream here no longer means buying a house. It simply means finding a quiet spot to sleep for one night. What turned a prize-winning city into a place where relentless workers slide toward the curb? If the backbone, the middle class, keeps falling, who will hold America upright? A home once showed stability and the triumph of labor. Today in Los Angeles, those four walls feel like luxury fiction. When full-time employees nap in autos outside their shifts, home becomes something they battle for every sunrise. Picture this. You clock 40 hours a week, hand over taxes in full, yet run out of cash for even the smallest room because living costs sprint far ahead of wages. Studies say you need more than $117,000 yearly here to rent without drowning in debt, spending less than a third of income on housing. Over half the locals never touch that figure. So thousands, from fresh graduates to silver-haired retirees, piece together improvised lives. An aging RV on a side street, a tent in a park, a weekly motel by the highway. Many park overnight at gas stations or 24-hour markets, chasing light for a hint of safety. Amid million-dollar mansions and glassy towers, countless people curl on concrete beside garbage bins, mere steps below billboards glowing with tech giant pride. Can you picture tower cranes filling the sky while families search for a couch to crash on just to survive the night? New apartment blocks keep rising, but almost every unit targets wealthy renters who can drop thousands each month. For households already gasping under basic costs, these glossy buildings might as well sit behind glass walls. Even the city's housing programs buckle under the load. Some applicants wait years for approval, forcing them to sleep beneath overpasses or rotate among friends' living rooms. Home, once the starting line for family, safety, and warmth, now feels like the finish line of exhausted dreams. When a child cannot study because there is no desk, or an elder dozes in a car back seat, or parents pick between rent and medicine, this is no longer just a housing crunch. It is a full-blown humanitarian storm. What stings most is not only the growing number of people without roofs. It is the way society has learned to look away. Tent rows along the freeway blend into the scenery, and people curled on sidewalks fade in the background. If shelter is a right everyone deserves, Los Angeles is showing an America where home is defined by what the market can sell, not what humans need. When will we finally ask the blunt question, why, in one of the richest nations on earth, do millions still have nowhere to live? Once, Los Angeles mirrored the American dream. Now it forecasts what happens if inequality keeps widening, the middle class keeps sliding, and a strained safety net snaps. Look around today. One side of the street flaunts mansions behind tall walls and blinking cameras. The other side bristles with tarp-wrapped tents, sagging wires, and scattered trash. Luxury cars idle beneath palm trees, while a young mother digs in a dumpster for an expired carton of milk. This divide is no longer metaphor. It is plain reality. Anyone who thinks this is just Los Angeles misses the message. What brews here is a beta version of a future spreading across the nation. A future built on heavy debt, ballooning property values, hollowed-out downtowns, and weak protection for vulnerable families. We once lived in an America where blue-collar workers bought homes, raised children, and saved for retirement. Now, a brief job loss or sudden illness can sink an entire household. Scenes once limited to 4 documentaries now unfold in a world capital of culture, tech, and entertainment. If Los Angeles, with its tycoons, mega charities, and huge creative economy, cannot stem the housing disaster, what city can? And if America cannot shield its own people from the edge, does the American dream still breathe? Los Angeles is not an outlier. It is a warning flare lit by indifference, helplessness, and growing disconnect. Unless we study that flare now, your neighborhood could join the scene tomorrow. 3 million residents share a zip code, yet live in different universes. The shocking statistics no longer jolt anyone. The tents no longer spark debate, and children sleeping in hatchbacks rarely land on primetime news. When pain becomes ordinary, what can jolt us awake? Will we settle for an America where the dream is something you purchase, while everyone else scavenges just to survive?